All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Welcome to Exposing Powerful Lies. I'm your host, Jerry. And with us today is Andrew Wilson from the Crucible. Thank you, Andrew, for coming on. I'm really honored that you would come on and do this.
Yeah, no problem, man. Happy to.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today about your work with the Crucible and just generally your story, how you got involved, what your mission statement is, and why you do what you do.
Okay. So this all started about a year ago. There was a Facebook group I was a part of, and it was a little politics Facebook group, and they had this really garbage show called Table Talk. It's full of like 5 or 6 liberals. There was always more people on the panels than there were people watching the panels. Right. And one night I was in there and they kind of, were making me angry with the types of things they were saying. So I threw down with them, and I ended up going on the show and pretty much smacking them around for about an hour. So then it kind of ended up going back the next night and doing the same thing. And then that kind of turned into a weekly thing. And then we launched a YouTube channel. It was called Politically Provoked, and started off very small, and as I began to debate larger and larger names and kind of put their heads on spikes, the popularity of the channel began to grow and grow and grow. The Crucible was started a few months ago. I had a falling out with the other people who were running Politically Provoked. So I started the Crucible, and the Crucible is actually the direct actual successor to what Politically Provoked was supposed to have been. And I just kept the essentially the correct dynamic continuing. The point and the thematics behind it is I have 3 major messages that I want to get out there. The first is that I want to see the diametric opposition views being debated in real time. The second is that we have a birth rate crisis, which I talk about a lot, and I want to see that get solved. And then the third is I would like to see the churches once again become politically active for the right wing. And if they don't, I truly believe that only through both Protestant, Orthodox, and Catholic churches working somewhat in unison, there's no way that we're going to stop what I foresee as a almost extinction level event with the crisis of the birth rates.
Well, I definitely agree with the birth rate crisis. That's one of the things that I appreciate about your work is that, obviously I appreciate that you're an Orthodox Christian. And as far as you mentioned the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church working together, are you talking about like a ground level people kind of getting behind where they share?
Well, no, I don't. I don't think that it would be possible to work together that way. But I think that they can work together they both have a similar goal. For instance, maybe with stopping abortion. Maybe they have. That's what I meant. Yeah,
like common ground. Because I wanted to clarify, you're not talking about ecumenism. You're not talking about. Yeah. Okay. Good. I just wanted to make that clear.
I'm saying anybody who has the right idea of trying to solve the birth rate problem, we should be working hand in hand with them, regardless of anything else. It's an existential crisis to humanity.
Yeah.
Far more dangerous than global warming, far more dangerous than anything else we could possibly be dealing with. So, I think that only through the church can this be combated, because I believe fundamentally it's a demonic agenda.
Yeah, I agree. And what else? You also mentioned you want to see the diametrically opposed viewpoints go head to head. And I think that's an earmark of anybody that really cares about the truth, is that, they're willing to enter in the arena and to put their face behind their ideas and be challenged by people who are intelligent and who understand the issue. I think that's really the main reason I wanted to bring you on, is I wanted to tell people about the channel and promote it. And because I think it's really important. I think it's important that we have intelligent people, take these ideologies and these worldviews and go head to head so that we can see, as viewers, we can see kind of the strengths and weaknesses of both sides. So I think that's a good service.
It's true. There's more in common between the dissident right and the communist left than people really want to admit.
Right.
A lot more in common than people really would prefer that there was. Towards the center is where we have this kind of real big delineation point between the right and the left wing. And it basically revolves around 4 key issues, which at this point, the 4th one's pretty much obsolete. So the key issues were always abortion, it was immigration, it was gun control, and then it was, what was the 4th one? Well, anyway, it's neither here nor there. Gun control is done, right? Yeah. So after the riots, the left pretty much was like, yeah, guns are fine. Right? Yeah, right. Guns are fine. We don't need gun control. To hell with the gun control. We don't need that anymore. So we're kind of stuck with the 3. Well, the immigration problem is usually addressed by the left by doing some type of blanket amnesty. So they hate illegal immigration so much that they're just going to make everybody legal citizens, right?
Yeah, they just want to get rid of it, make it not exist anymore.
Right. Well, they won't even exist because they'll just all be citizens. So this is kind of their answer to it. And the right-wing answer of a complete and total moratorium, regardless, while I think that that's a good idea for integration purposes, it's not feasible. If you're not having enough babies, your population is going to be replaced by immigrants. And that's a sad reality that people are going to have to learn how to live with unless we start having more babies.
Right. Well, I think that's why, orthodoxy in the church is so important, is to put people in the proper framework, mentally and spiritually, to understand, like, what is right, what is wrong, what should we be doing. And, orthodoxy in the church is a perfect framework for building a family and building a society, and promoting childbirth and families and marriage. And this is a good response to the cultural Marxism and the push, in our culture that we see. Families are bad, white people are bad. All this stuff we see go on. I also appreciate your views on race realism. I've seen you talk a lot about that, and I promote that, or I support it. This idea that they push us into these dialectics of, like, you're either white or black, or you're left or right, and I think it's important to understand that this pro-white, like, ideology is not where we really should be going. There's an aspect of, like, knowing your culture and your heritage, but I think to center around the church is more important. To center around Christ is more important than to center around the color of your skin or anything like that. I mean, I know in my church we have people of all different ethnicities, and we're in the same community, the same family, and that is a binder better than race could be.
The reason this great false dialectic exists is because it's contrary to take the identity of Christianity and take any other identity with it. That's it. That has to be the primary. Everything else will create a contradiction. So if you say my identity is the Christian identity and the white identity, you're instantly going to create a contradiction. Yeah. If you say that my identity is the Christian identity and the black identity, you're instantly going to create a contradiction. This is why we've ended up so polarized on this issue, and why you'll see so many of the so-called white supremacist leaders or the dissident right leaders are actually very atheistic, and they tend to run very secular style groups, is because they begin to understand, as they flesh out their own ideology, that, wait a second, if we adopt Christianity, we're going to create contradictions. You can't adopt Christian value structures without being a Christian too. That's another big myth. So one of the giant myths is, well, I love the Christian value structure, even though I'm not a Christian. Well, then you don't love the Christian value structure.
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's either your identity or it's not. Yeah. You can't serve two masters. Nothing else. It's got to be paramount. It's everything. And if that is not what your identity is, then I don't, in my worldview, believe that you're following the actual Christian faith as it's been laid down.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of, I've noticed, like, the white nationalists and stuff are even pagan, this old, like, throwback to Norse, paganism or things like that, which is just silly.
Well, it's a crisis of identity.
Right.
Paganism is, of course, completely compatible with the white identity. So
Yeah.
why in the world would they not adopt it? Of course they would adopt it. It doesn't create an instant contradiction. Paganism can pretty much be whatever the hell you want it to be. Right? Christianity has very, very rigid sets of value structures that have to be followed. Nobody is very confused at this point as to what it takes to be a Christian or a follower of Christ. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. Even amongst Protestants, there's not that much wiggle room for how you would define what a Protestant Christian is. And it really puts you in a box, and you just can't serve two masters. So once you recognize that, you also recognize that the transgender identity, which has become paramount to so many people, creates the same type of hypocrisy. You can start to reconcile that, wait a second, we can't hold both these ideas at the same time. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy when you see certain churches promoting trans or LGBT anything. It's just like, to me, it clearly seems like something more is going on there, that nobody in good faith and being honest with themselves could think that those two things could go hand in hand.
Well, actually, there is something going on there. Now that you bring that up, there's about 5 large philanthropy groups that are LGBTQ outreach advocates. And so they reach out to the community for different acceptances and things like this, or campaigns for acceptance. One of the things that they spend a large quantity of money on is, of course, church outreach. And what they do is they approach these various churches and they offer to help them, treat essentially their LGBTQ parish and this kind of thing. It's truly the devil's money, but I'm sure it looks very appealing to a smaller 200, 300 person church. They're always struggling with money, and they're always struggling with finances and this kind of thing. It probably looks pretty appealing to them, Right. And this is you can actually watch in real time church subversion happen on the Protestant side, and Orthodoxy is not immune to it. Catholicism most certainly is not immune to it.
Right. Yeah, and this kind of falls on each member of the church to, we all play a part in the makeup of our church and the politics of our church. So I think it's the impetus is on each member to protect it, to protect the church and to protect it from these subversive ideologies and stuff. I definitely really appreciate the work that you do because you speak out on these things and because you bring. I like your style. You've got like it's obvious you've got common sense, and you're very straightforward with the things you say. You were talking the other day about the subversive elements that even come with alt media platforms like these, with people speaking. You've got these groups that come in and try to get you to basically Fed post yourself, try to get you to say certain things. You were calling them the name-ums.
The name-ums.
And I mean, yeah, and all of us see that every day on all these different platforms. You see these people come in, and it's just silly. And it seems more like an organized effort. It seems like a combination of an organized effort to subvert these channels, and also just the dumbasses that really believe this and like latch onto it and really think that just by calling out a certain race or something that proves that you're cool, that you're smart, and that.
Well, brothers in Christ should be helping each other succeed.
Right.
This should be our overarching goal, to help each other as much as we possibly can in order to spread the message of God. Right. That's our edict. And we should be helping each other as much as we can. So the entities that are at work when you look into your live chat and you see 30 name-ums all trying to subvert whatever your message is, that might be pro-orthodoxy, or it might be pro-Jesus Christ, or it might be anti-LGBTQ, things that you aren't allowed to talk about. They try to put social pressure on you in order to force you to say things that will instantly get rid of the platform, which is one of the only venues left for which we can actually reach out with our doctrines. So it's very foolish. It's I think that the ultimate enemy also has a hand in it, whether we can identify what that is. But most certainly it's a combination of both Fed posters and dumbass incels, right? Kind of a combination latching onto each other. And they always seem to come from the same communities. If you keep a good eye on it, you go through Jay Dyer's chats, you go through anybody's chats, you'll see kind of the same faces over and over and over. They just kind of go from one chat to the next. And it's very clear that they're a subversive force.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It just makes no sense to basically trash your own channel when we can do real work, like you're saying, like reaching people with the message of Christ is so important. And even if these platforms, which we know they're controlled by the same forces that we're against, you know, the force of globalization and Luciferianism, basically. We can use these platforms to reach people, and people are using these platforms to reach people in a very effective way. People like Jay Dyer and David Patrick Harry, and a lot of the people in the what we call the Orthosphere are really bringing a lot of people into the church, myself included, you know, through debates, through theology lectures, all of this stuff. So really we're using their own tools against them. And if you just go and stick your foot in your mouth and say something that, you know, is edgy, or you know, you're not allowed to talk about, you know, within terms of service, like it makes no sense, and you're sabotaging your own effort.
Well, you're also sabotaging a platform for many other people who may be smarter than you, to connect them with an audience that they've never seen before. And that is also a key point that people miss, which is, you know, it may be that Jay Dyer has 330,000 subscribers, but speaking to your 10,000 subscribers is a brand new pool of people for which he can deliver his message. So you're actually hurting the guy next to you by doing that as much as you're hurting yourself. And this is not true. This is not how people in the sphere should be operating. We should be doing whatever we can to boost each other up and help each other to get our messages out there, even if they're slightly contrary to each other. As long as we're moving towards kind of the same goal, this is going to be the best way to organize and move forward.
Right. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is to reach out with other people that are doing similar work and kind of try to find common ground amongst all of us. And because we all know we're fighting the same enemy, and we all know that, you know, we love Jesus Christ. So I think that it's important to find, you know, our shared ground, and to make peace amongst people, and kind of try to unite our efforts in a small way, not in a total way, because that also comes with its own pitfalls as well. Yeah, because groups are easily subverted and infiltrated if they become too structured and too organized and too tight. Yeah,
I completely agree. But I'd rather get to that point and worry about that problem then, rather than never be able to even approach a point like that, because we're too busy fighting off namems and fighting each other over kind of non-sub issues, when we really have these much bigger fish to fry. Yeah. Jay Dyer has explained ad nauseum to thousands of people the global depopulation plan that's in place. Whether you believe that that's conspiratorial or not, what you can't argue with is the fact that the birth rate decrease amongst all nations is greatly accelerating. So whether you think it's conspiratorial or a natural phenomenon based on the quality of life that we all have, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that it is happening, and that is something that Christians should be extraordinarily concerned about, probably more than anything else on planet Earth at this point.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there for sure. I mean, if we're not, there's not going to be any of us left
to worship.
That's kind of important.
Yeah, we have to be alive to worship God, you know. So, the more of us who breed these values into our children, the more people we can create to worship the Lord. And this is kind of, you know, it's kind of this cyclical thing. We're supposed to breed and multiply for a reason, and many of us are not doing our duty. We're kind of locking these porn helmets on our head and wiring pornography directly in. It's rewiring the brains of many young men. A lot of them, I get contacted from people around the world, young men all the time, who are kind of in this horrific cycle of their brain. They know their brain's been rewired, right? Arousal's difficult for them. Finding great close personal bonds with women's very tough with them. Things like this. This all leads to the acceleration of this birth rate issue. And so only in my estimation, is the church powerful enough, both Protestant, Orthodox, and Catholic? I truly think that only that coalition would be powerful enough to even have a prayer at putting an end to any of this legislatively. The right used to really count on the Protestant churches, and they used to lean very heavily on the Protestant churches. And the Protestant churches did a fairly good job for several hundred years of keeping what you would call degeneracy at bay. Not anymore.
Yeah. Well, legislation, I think, like the immigration moratorium you were talking about would help. But I mean, it's a culture war, and that's kind of what we're battling right now, is to show people where that degenerate culture has gone, how wrong it is, and to show how empty it is and destructive it is. So I think that's really the battleground, is ideas and debates and stuff like that, which is the main reason I wanted to talk to you, because I feel like that is like the front lines of it. Is people, that subversive culture comes in at such a young age. People give their kids up to, public education, and they're met with, all of these ideas and these Marxist teachers and pushing all this stuff on them. And then through the TV, people put their kids in front of the TV and let them watch, Nickelodeon, all this stuff that is just total weaponized culture against them. And I think it's really important to show people, hey, this is wrong. Like, this is in complete opposition to traditional Christian, ethics and the way that we're called to live our lives. And this is where it's happening. You need to get your kids away from those sources of poison, mental poison. And it's tough, like you were saying, seeing kids now addicted to porn and stuff, younger men addicted to porn. Like, it's really sad to see, because they've been assaulted their whole life, told this is normal. Like, this is what everybody does. Like, this is just, it's the typical thing. And it's
they also fight tooth and nail to justify the addiction to it, right?
Yeah.
They will fight tooth and nail to justify the addiction to pornography, to justify the addiction to sex, to justify the various addictions. Self-justification is a massive problem, because we now live in a society that's bereft of responsibility. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions. That's a big problem that codes used to take care of, a chivalric code or a Bushido code, things like this. But we're a nation of laws. We don't use codes. There's no honorific code. So therefore, almost kind of anything goes, and it's become kind of this great slide. It's a race to the bottom. And if you think that guys like Destiny and guys like Bosch, they may only have 6,000 people plugged in at one time watching them, and then their video gets seen by 400,000 or 500,000 people. But you can imagine the 500,000 people who watch those ideas and they become ingratiated in their brain. They go out and they preach the gospel of Bosch to another, 10 friends. And then you can kind of extrapolate that. They influence millions upon millions of people. And it's foolish to think that there should not be any type of counter to their ideology via debate and using the entertainment circuit also as a weapon on our behalf.
Right. Yeah, we should also be throwing our hat into the ring of the culture war and using these tools as well, for sure. And I always kind of think of it like it's the broad path and the narrow path. I don't think the Christian message would, if it's presented in the fullness of truth and not sugar coated and not made to be, easily digestible, right? Not to compromise, at least, on important things like homosexuality and things like this. It's not ever going to hit that level of like 400,000, 500, millions of people like you would see these other, worldviews do, because they're more lenient. They're not as strict. They're more, they justify why, chasing your pleasures and passions are good and things like that. But it is important, even if it's only a fraction of what those people are bringing in, it's still important, because those are the people that we should be reaching, is that narrow path.
Yeah. Well, as mental illness greatly increases inside not just the United States, but most of the West, and people have moved towards this more consumerism, materialistic style culture, I do think that you can have a message that resonates just as well as the message of free love, all the sex, all the porn, let's coom together, right? I do truly think that that message is less well received at this date than most people think that it is, and that the craving for an alternative message is very high. And I don't see any particular reason why we shouldn't be delivering it, but nobody is. The trenches have been more or less abandoned. There is no check. Nobody is shooting back. And this is a big problem for me. I don't, I expected when I entered into the battlefield, there'd be a whole lot of soldiers here, and there's not.
Right.
There's not.
Yeah, I'm trying to encourage people, stand up and speak the truth, and put yourself out there and don't live in fear of, this is not the approved worldview. This is not the approved opinion. So I'm not going to say that I'm going to hide, and be anonymous. It's like, no, we need people to stand up. And not only is the message important, but also leading by example is important. And, actually having responsibility and leading a Christian life will give people examples to see, and will show that it is a healthy and life-giving way to live, and it's especially in contrast to, Coomers and all of that.
Well, fear is the opposite of faith.
Right.
If you're too afraid to stand for your moral convictions and show your face and speak to them, then your faith probably isn't nearly as strong as you think it is. Yes. Fear shouldn't guide you if you have ultimate faith in God, except maybe fear of God. So from my estimation, these trenches should be full. Okay. There should be 100 to my left and 100 to my right, and I should just be one of many voices. But unfortunately, this is not the way that this has turned out. There have been good trailblazers like Jay Dyer, but Jay Dyer largely stays away from the political and sticks within the arena of the metaphysical and the spiritual, which God bless him for doing it.
Yeah, that's where he's effective, for sure.
Yeah, and he's also a very brilliant man. But the political front needs to also be manned.
Right.
Okay, it can't be ignored.
For sure. For sure, it's a more dangerous position to be in. Absolutely, and that's why it's largely unmanned. And also, I think a big part to play in that is this the sort of current of alternative media that happened during the Trump administration, where all these Q people thinking that being anonymous on 4chan was like a soldier in the trenches, right? And like they all thought that they were like fighting some war. It's like by posting memes and hiding behind frog faces. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But a whole lot of frog kecking, a whole lot of trolling, not a whole lot of effective action. In order to affect true change, especially political change, you have to have something that you're offering. And it can't be there's a faceless army of people that you don't even know about, who they're about to wake up. And once that happens, then you'll see, no, you won't.
Yeah,
they don't exist.
Work great. That would work great if, Trump was the savior coming in, and we needed people to disperse the information that the savior's coming. You know what I mean? Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah.
But it's not so. There is no massive silent majority that you don't know about. Okay. Think to your own life and you'll realize that that's true. Okay. There's us. Yeah. We're what there is. There's nobody else. Nobody's coming to save you except you.
Yeah, that massive silent majority is a massive majority of people that can be swayed one way or the other. They can be, and whoever is the most effective, and whoever, unfortunately, is part of democracy. Whoever has the best show, whoever can flash the most shiny objects in front of their face and get them to look that way, is going to be the one that sways those people.
Whoever has the best message, whoever has the best rhetoric, whoever is at the forefront of explaining what the realistic problems are and giving simplistic solutions people can understand to them, will always be the victor in these arenas. The message that we should have as followers of Christ should be very simple. We don't need to make it complex, though the church history is very complex and the faith is extremely complex. The messaging doesn't need to be. Right. This is one thing that orthodoxy can learn from Protestantism. The reason that it's been so effective in recruitment, where orthodoxy has not been nearly as effective in recruitment, is because they've had a couple of 100 years of being able to refine a simplistic, palatable message as
Yeah.
Jay Dyer might say, slots, cheese, pizza, and say the Lord's Prayer, right?
Right. Right.
But they have been able to make the message very palatable for people. And I
Yeah.
think that that is political messaging. That is the way political messaging is done. And this is one of the great battles that's ahead of the Orthodox Church. It's one of the great battles that's going to be ahead of everybody, is making sure that we can create messaging that's palatable. If we're telling people, hey, you can't just have sex with everybody who's walking around, that's bad. We
Right.
need to really be able to give them a palatable, justifiable reason for that they can take in seconds, that makes sense to them. And man, we're not there.
No. Yeah, I think a big part of you're so right about Orthodox need to get better at evangelism, because a lot of Orthodox don't even think that that's something that the Orthodox Church does. You know, they associate it with like evangelicals or Protestantism, and they're just kind of like in their own little world. But absolutely, we do evangelize, and we do try to reach other people, and that's just something that Orthodox aren't that great at right now. They don't try, it seems like, in a lot of ways, whereas a lot of these Protestant churches hold functions and public outreach and things like that. We definitely need more people doing that. 100%.
Well, Protestant churches have the advantage of a lot of money. They have a larger pool of people to choose from. Very easy to find talent. The more pool of people you have to choose from. Birth rates, right?
Yeah.
Far easier to find more talent the more you have. And orthodoxy inside the United States is still fairly small.
Yeah.
It's going to take talented people for the purposes of evangelizing, and it's also going to take messaging that's palatable without compromising the value structure. It's a kind of a really difficult row to hoe, but it can be done. And the only way it can be done is to continue to have these conversations with people who are literally and sometimes infested with demons. And having these conversations with people who you have complete and total diametric opposition to, as far as worldview, religion, everything else. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I've changed a lot of minds. I've changed a lot of minds by doing this sort of engagement. And it's true that other people who've come on the platform who have diametrically opposing views have also changed my minds using my platform. But this is the price of admission. If we're going to engage in the arena of ideas, sometimes we're going to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as truth is what we're after, then that's not a problem. You know, I mean, dealing with people who, believe the opposite of what I did is how I became Christian in the first place. You know, I was not a Christian at all for most of my life, and really believed the things that I believed at that time. But I also really cared about the truth, which is why I often sought out people that disagreed with me and wanted to be challenged. Not everybody shares that view. A lot of people just want to be right. They don't really care about whether it's true or not. They just, they say what they say, they feel what they feel, and believe what they believe, and they want that to be the truth. Right, bad faith, exactly.
Bad faith. And you'll find a lot of bad faith. My AMA for Twitch, when they did an AMA for me, one of the questions that came up was something that was very similar to this. One of the explanations that I gave for this phenomenon is that it's very, when people's worldview are challenged, they basically have two options, which is either A, to listen to yours and see if they can reconcile their own, or B, fight tooth and nail to hold on to their worldview, regardless of whether it makes sense or not. And what you find most of the time is people will fight tooth and nail to hold on to whatever their worldview is first.
Yeah.
But it can, over time, the messaging can break it down. It can convert people away from horrific things. The churches have been doing this for, since the time before time forgot.
Yeah.
Breaking down horrific demonic messaging and surpassing it with far superior messaging. And guess what? We can do it again.
Yeah. Yeah. My priest even was, I was talking to him about talking with somebody that was very opposed to Christianity, and he kind of described it like it's a wall. They've built up this wall, and slowly but surely you can chip away at that wall with good argumentation and with the truth. And it's always amazing when you see people come through that, and you realize the power that the truth has, that even people that seem like they're so far gone and so, just ensnared by these demonic deceptions. When they come out of that, there's almost nothing more happy for me to see. There's nothing more glorious than to see that transformation happen.
Nothing more rewarding for them.
Right.
And, so by proxy, joy is easy to spread.
Yeah.
So when you see somebody literally shrug off their demons and become joyful, it's very easy to partake in the joy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Very easy to do. Joy is one of those things. A Protestant minister actually explained this to me very, very well a few years ago. He said, joy is one of those things that's better felt than told. Right? Yeah. Not something that can be easily explained because it's not happiness. It's a different feeling altogether. It's almost a euphoria. Yeah. But he explained that he didn't think that joy could ever really come from anywhere except from God. And looking back on it, I kind of recognize that anytime I've experienced actual euphoric joy, it's always been in the presence of God.
Yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, so where we're at now is, of course, that feeling of watching people shrug off a horrific demonic ideology fills you with joy. Why shouldn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Why shouldn't it? So, for myself, I'm still learning, and I'm going to be learning for a long time in the realm of orthodoxy. So I don't speak and I don't do Christian apologetics when I do debates, because I don't want to misrepresent the faith to which I belong. I think that there's other people who are far better at doing that. However, politically, I'm brutal, and I'm more than happy to engage in political debates, even using secular logic and things like this. And I feel like there's many people who are part of our faith who do the exact same thing.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I support what you do, because, I take the same sort of stance. My strengths are not in debating. They're not, I feel like there's a lot of better people, more effective people out there to do that. But I think it's awesome that, you're using your talents, and your perspective is right and your focus is right. You understand, you know Jesus Christ. And so I think that it's great, to do this political work. And I think that's really the most important thing is to get more people like you whose talents are in that arena to use their talents for good.
I agree. My partner, Pedro, he's also a great debater.
Yeah.
He actually went on and debated with Jay Dyer, and he did fairly well.
Yeah, I have to tip my hat to him. Yeah. and say mad respect for that, because there's not a lot of people that are brave enough to step into the arena with Jay. No. And being a young man and not having done many things like that, I have a lot of respect for his efforts there. And I think he did do good, all things considered.
Yeah, he did do good, and he'll go back and do it again. He's either he's not going to quit, or he's going to get converted. One way or the other, this is the way that the story ends, right?
Right.
But he shares the same value structure when it comes to the birth rates and these kind of overarching issues that we have. And one of the things is I've been heckled mercilessly for having a partner who is a Calvinist rather than somebody who's an Orthodox. Sure. But at this point, I have to look to my right and see who's willing to get into the damn trench with me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not like you have like a long sheet of people to choose from, like all these effective debaters that want to do the same work you're doing. That, I mean, you got what you have. And as long as you guys are both focused on the truth, like you said, it's going to end one way or another. Either he's going to win or he's going to convert,
Either he's going to win or he's going to convert. It's either going to go one way or it's going to go the other. But the thing is that as we've been peeling back the layers of this onion and showing more and more to the general public what's really behind these ideologies through debate, people are kind of awakening a bit to the message, which was heavily ridiculed when we first started. And we only just started a couple of months ago, and the progress has been amazing. So the message does resonate. People do seem to be attracted towards it. They do seem to understand something fundamentally wrong is happening. And they do want to see these issues completely sparred over, debated about, and they don't want to see Christians act like cowards, right? We need you, right?
Yeah.
We need you. Now more than ever, we need you.
For real. Yeah, I mean, it's become very difficult to deny that something is very wrong at this point. I mean, just seeing our cities burned by BLM and Antifa, and seeing, you know, these
Marxist
insane
organizations.
yeah, seeing these insane, you know, purple-haired people in pussy hats screaming in the streets, and you know, seeing drag queen story hour in our schools, you know, the economy obviously going to shit, and the president being this bumbling, dementia-ridden fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of leftists at this point who are willing to reach across and have these discussions because they see that there's fundamental problems too. Now, they may not see them in the same way that you do, but they know that there's issues, and that's enough. That's enough of a hole for you to, you know, kind of squint your eye through, and you guys can see eye to eye on something.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how you start a conversation like this. That's how you move a conversation like this forward. You have to start somewhere. But I'm going to continue to platform transgender people. I'm going to continue to platform LGBTQ and communists and every other type of leftist in between. And I do think that from a dialogue standpoint, that Christians absolutely need to begin in the engagement process with these people. That is true evangelism from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, that's how we avoid echo chambers, and that's how we reach the people that need to hear this. You know, I mean, we can just sit here and preach to the choir all day and talk amongst ourselves, but you're not going to change a lot of minds doing that. And you're not going to show the contrast between what we believe and what we're promoting and what these people are promoting and living, you know. So I don't know why anybody would give you static for bringing on people like that. I mean, you host a debate show. Just because somebody's coming on doesn't mean that you agree with what they're saying. I mean, the way I see it,
there are times where guests will be very they will utter blasphemies.
Yeah.
They will say horrific things like this.
Yeah.
And I have been heavily ridiculed for being silent when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the criticism, but at the same time, I understand the necessity. If you bring a blasphemer on to challenge their worldview, they're going to blaspheme.
Yeah.
Do exorcists show up and exorcise the demonic and expect that the demonic's going to behave?
Right. Yeah.
I don't think that they do. Now, I'm no exorcist. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that there will be times where guests blaspheme. It will sound horrific to Orthodox ears and Christian ears in general. But it's going to happen. And the only way that you can engage with a blasphemer is oftentimes to hear blasphemy. And I'm sorry that that's the truth of the world, but I live in the world. I didn't create it.
Right. Yeah, it's dirty work for sure. And maybe it's not for everybody, you know, that wants to listen. But there are always going to be people that want to do this and want to get into the mud with these people and really wrestle it out and try to defeat their evil. Yeah.
Yeah, I largely agree. Now, when I say ridicule, that type of ridicule has been few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, most people are very supportive. The Orthodox community has been extraordinarily supportive of my efforts. I can't even tell you how many DMs I've gotten from various people who have been extremely happy to see any type of Orthodox representation in the mainstream at all.
Yeah, bro. I mean, we got like 1% of America is Orthodox. So when we see somebody Orthodox, we're like, yes, all right.
And then to also allow Orthodox and platform Orthodox individuals to come debate their ideals, to allow Orthodox individuals to come on the show and really confront the power of the enemy is also something that we're able to do. But we've got to stay united, stay away from the name-em, stay away from the idiocy and the lunacy that will completely and totally dismantle the entire thing from the ground up. That's what the enemy does.
Yeah.
And whether it's the demonic behind it or whether it's the political factions behind it, doesn't matter. They don't want you to talk. So you've got to be smart.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you silence yourself through some stupidity, I mean, it's one thing if you're speaking the truth and they shut you down, you were following, you were avoiding any sort of like crazy words, but you're still giving the message that is the truth, and they take you down. Okay. Well, you tried your best, you did what you could, but it's a whole different ballgame if you're going to just go out there and and be an idiot and get banned and then cry, they censored me. It's like, because
One
for
of
a
the
while,
best tricks that the enemy's ever played on us was to tell us to sacrifice our voices so that we could know who each other were.
exactly. That's what I was just
Right?
about to say. Yeah, it's
How
like a badge of honor if you've been
yeah,
deplatformed, you know.
a
Oh, you haven't
purity,
been deplatformed? You're not speaking
yeah,
the truth then.
a purity test of a fool,
Yeah.
right? A purity test of a fool. And many fools have fallen for it. There's a pyramid scheme as much on the right as there is on the left when it comes to this. And a lot of it's monetary. And you'll find that the people at the tops of these pyramid schemes on the right are often secular in nature as well. Okay.
Right.
Don't fall for the voices of fools. There's far more of them than you can imagine, right? Do not welcome them into your chats and into your platforms. Get rid of them. Send them back to the dark recesses and corners of the internet from which they came, unless, like many have in my chats and on my shows, they conform and behave to the TOSs, or they're simply not welcome.
Yeah.
That's also a way that you can begin to change that dynamic.
Right, and that's what we do, on Jay's channel. That's what we do on most of the channels that we moderate. Is people can come in, they can ask questions and stuff, but if they're going to start doing the name them type behavior, they're gone immediately. It's just You're gone. We don't need you here. And then for other people that have disagreements and stuff, like Jay has the Discord open, does open forum debates all the time. So come on in, say whatever you want to say. You want to crush my ideas, then come in and crush my ideas. And so we get a lot of people that they want to argue and bicker and say inflammatory things in the chat, but then you give them the Discord link and they don't come in. So those people are gone too, because we know they're not serious. And I think
Jay Dyer, much like JF Garipi, while they're on completely different wavelengths for the things that they believe, both have a good fundamental, I think, intuitive understanding of the namems and understand that they're constantly under siege and that they need to depend on good moderation and good level heads to make sure that they don't get bogged down in these types of quagmires. And they're both very, very smart people for doing that. And we can all really learn a massive lesson from the fact that these voices still exist when so many other ones have been eliminated. They're probably doing something right.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't need that fringe group's views. You don't need their support. It's not like your channel's going to go under if you don't get the those kind of people backing you up. I mean, those are the kind of people that are going to subvert and destroy your channel. And I mean, you have to, right, and your life.
And your life. So the thing is, like with Jay Dyer, one of those guys who anybody should be proud to have come on their channel.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
He goes out of his way to try to help you for no particularly good reason other than he can. Right. And if you show the same respect back, this kind of thing. JF is another one of those types of people who does that type of thing. Right. That's truly what responsible platforming is. Not a difference in opinion, no matter how extreme, but the ability to follow the terms and service within the platform so that you don't end up wrecking everybody's show, wrecking everybody's, you can wreck their whole life. In fact, that's really what responsible platforming is, not the leftist view of his views too extreme, but rather how can they have discourse in a way that doesn't completely and totally violate all of the terms of service of every platform they're on.
Right.
And if you're not smart enough to do that, I don't really know what to tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, and it's not like these people, they're not presenting intelligent arguments. And I've heard Jay briefly say, evil doesn't have an ethnicity. Evil is not monopolized by any one group of people. And if you think otherwise, you're just naive. And I mean, we can really just address
subverted by the evil that you're fighting.
Right, and we can address their claims in just that, just that statement. It's like, come on, guys, like. We have important work to do. We have important things to get done here, and look at the destruction that these people have left in their wake on all these channels and all these people that have gotten deplatformed. I mean, we don't need to keep repeating the same mistakes over again.
That's an excellent point. One of the things that was caused by their inability to have a delivery system that was not in violation of everything was that it made it that much harder for the people who came after, who are trying to continue to deliver effective messaging. And if we're fools, it's going to make it that much harder for those until these platforms become so locked up that you can't talk about anything. And believe me, they will get that way if we're not smarter about the way in which we deliver messaging, in which we talk about issues. And that's just the truth.
Right. And let's say you are a name 'em. Let's say not you, but somebody I'm talking to out here. Let's say you are a name 'em. Do you really think it's an effective way to go out and point the finger and say, here they are, I'm naming them, these are the people? Build yourself up, build yourself up, help your people, speak in positive terms about your own group instead of going out and pointing the finger, because that just makes you a target. Let's say you're totally right in what you're saying. You're just making yourself a target and you're hurting the people that you should be helping. So it just doesn't make any sense at all, even in their own construct.
Not even a little bit. But again, it's become a purity test for the fool. Right. And I'm no fool, and I don't think you are either. We don't need to go through the purity test in order to advance our viewpoint, nor am I going to. For no better phrasing, they can go to hell. Right? Yeah. I'm not doing it. They can kiss my ass. I'm not doing it. Yeah. And what needs to end up happening is more people need to take that more hardline stance. Okay. And we need to be as supportive of each other. I'm glad that you guys are doing the great moderation you do for Jay's chat. I'm glad that you guys do the great moderation. OK comes into my chat a lot, does great moderating work inside my chat as well. Never asked me for anything in exchange. Right. Yeah,
we enjoy doing it. We enjoy doing it. We enjoy participating in the work and stuff. And they're all great people. OK, Jethro, Dangerfield, Henley, and me are, those guys were doing it before I got involved, and we just became friends, and they kind of gave me a hand up, and we never even really had to talk. That's what's so good about that group is we never really had to talk about there were never issues. We all just kind of were on the same page. We knew what had to be done. We knew what Jay expects from, the moderators, and we back each other up, and there's no infighting. There's nothing like that. And it's just a great group of people. And they've been, brought into other channels as well because they just do good work, So, yeah, I shout out to all those guys. Shout out to everybody that's here watching. Thank you guys for joining us and stuff. It's really a great group of people, a great core group of people that are involved in the Orthodox YouTube. I've come to make a lot of friends on there, and I just really appreciate all of them.
They've been nothing but fantastic to me. So the thing is like I said, OK has done a wonderful job inside the chat. And again, I never gave him any clear expectations. It didn't really need to. Right?
Yeah, it's common sense.
People kind of intuitively know what a name-em looks like at this point, right? And they know intuitively that you got to go, right? We can't have you coming in and trying to subvert this messaging. It's totally counterintuitive. It's horrific for everybody. It's going to cause us a lot of problems down the road. One of the things I agreed with Lauren Southern on when I was debating with her, and she said, kind of a lot of right wingers took themselves out of positions of authority and power and this and that, and kind of died on their own sword to become martyrs in a movement that never materialized.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's right. Right. She's had to make an entire comeback tour through Twitch politics in order to begin doing messaging again, because she was kind of one of the first who understood, well, this isn't really working.
Right.
Right. The left is fine with echo chambers.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't need to engage with you. They're happy to be in their echo chambers, just talking smack from behind their walls. They're totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
So it does us no good if they're willing to engage, to reject that, to, in whatever platform, in whatever state, even if it's a trap, it's still better to engage.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you have faith in the rightness of your own views? Do you actually believe that you have the truth or not? And if you do, then put up or shut up, sort of deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, I largely agree. By the way, that's a great poster behind you.
Oh yeah, I'm in my brother's room right now, so I knew you were coming on. And one thing I like about your streams is that you do smoke on stream. And as a smoker, I appreciate to see that, because there's almost nobody else that smokes on camera. And so many people hate smokers. They just hate it. They see you smoking, they're just like, why you smoke? And it's like, I'm not promoting cigarettes, but as a smoker, I enjoy that. So usually I'll do streams out in my garage, and where I can smoke. But this is my brother's room. It's just more professional. I figure out of respect for you, have a better setup, and controlled environment where there's not cars driving around and stuff. But so as the added bonus, everybody gets to watch me Nick Fit for this whole time. So I hope my pain is entertaining for you guys.
You see it watching me smoke. You're like, you bastard! I want one now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, I've always there was a couple of different Twitch streamers actually who told me that they wouldn't platform me if I was smoking or if I had a beer while I was doing a debate, and I told them, then don't platform me. I won't come on. Well, they yielded very quickly. Because the truth is like, again, I don't care about your purity tests.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of this program is be who you are.
Right.
So that we can see you. I want to see who you are. You know,
that's why I like live streams.
Who I am.
Yeah, that's why I like live streams, because there's no editing. You just see the people. This is who they are. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so obvious when people try to fake. They try to be something they're not. They try to curate this image of themselves. It's just like, come on, we're beyond that. In the age of everybody has a phone, everybody can do live streams. Like, just represent yourself. And none of us are perfect, and all of us are flawed. So just be real. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the best things about orthodoxy, and some of the libs have been really listening to me on it when I say, hey man, it's kind of the party religion. Like, it's known as the drinking man's religion. You know what I mean? Really? Yeah, it's known as the drinking. You know, we when we fast, we can still drink beer. You know, it's okay. Yeah. So,
or how about on Pasha? On Pasha, my priest is pushing around a cart full of bottles of liquor, and everybody's getting low key turned up with the priest. Nothing better than that. Come on, that's good, wholesome fun.
Well, I think part of the camaraderie that men used to have, and that I'd like to see come again, is that there was never anything better than sinking your teeth into a big fat piece of animal meat and sharing a beer with each other.
Right.
There's almost nothing that builds relationships like that does. Now, I can't put my finger on why the requirement is animal meat and booze, but it works almost every single time. When men break bread together, they get along better. When they have drinks together, they get along better. And it's like, look, it's okay. We can break bread. We can have a drink. We can have a conversation, right? We're not Puritans. Okay?
Right.
We're, and this is the way, again, we start with messaging.
This is how we avoid the balkanization.
But
right. Yeah. And this is the thing, is we're taught, that's what's nice about the group that come to my channel and stuff, and the people I try to interact with, is like, I always say I'm retarded, but like, we're not idiots, like, have some common sense. We're not saying like, yeah, go be an alcoholic. Yeah, go drink beer every day. Like, anything like, yeah, we're just saying that, people are people, and you can enjoy life without being overly puritanical about it. And judging other people, that's an easy trap that people fall into. Is they're like, you smoke cigarettes, so I'm not going to watch your stuff because that's not perfect, or I don't like this thing or that thing. It's like, come on, man.
Meanwhile, you go to Twitch and there's women licking their microphones in a hot tub, half naked, smoking a joint.
Right.
And you're concerned that I'm not pure enough for you because I might have a beer and smoke a cigarette on stream. That's absurd on its face. That's not going to reach anybody.
Right. Yeah. Okay. He says drinking isn't a sin in orthodoxy as long as you're not getting drunk or having problems. Exactly. We're called to be sober minded. That doesn't mean you can't have a glass of wine. It doesn't mean you can't drink a beer or two. It just means, what it means. We all know what it means inside. We know, where the problem is. So.
Well, having two beers on stream just makes me sharper. Takes the edge off, this kind of thing. And I largely agree with that message. So, I mean, this is what I mean, though, is that first you have to clear up a lot of the misconceptions, right? The other thing that you have to do is remember that people want to see real. They don't want to see fake. They want to see real. They want to see my opinion in its realistic form. This is how I actually am. And the way that I'm talking to you right now is the same way I'd be talking to my neighbor tomorrow.
Same. And this is how we grow as people too, as you put yourself out there. I'm getting a little bit of an echo. Are you hearing that? There we go. Okay. This is how we grow as people is, you know, if you put yourself out there and people do see the real you, then they can have a conversation with you. Maybe, you know, there is parts about me that I can work on and fix. I mean, I know there are, you know, but when people see the real you, then they can address the real you. But if you put up some like curated image, you know, how do you grow from that? If you're just perfect, hey, everybody, I'm Jerry, I'm perfect, you know, like, come on.
Right. It's absurd on its face. And that's counter to what our message should be anyway. One of the things that I've always liked about the Crucible platform is that we want you to show who you are. We want the mask off right from the gate, right?
Yep.
We don't want to have to take it off during the show. We don't want to have to peel it off inch by inch. We want you to walk in with the mask already off. Put your views on, you know, put your views up and match them against other people's. Let's see where they fall.
Right.
You know, let's see where they go.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, a debate will stop mid-debate and people will kind of look at each other like, huh, we really kind of agree on a lot more here than I thought we did.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Right.
So this is one of the things that we can do in the political sphere. It's really not being done anywhere else. And I don't think it's going to be for the foreseeable future, but I hope to see more and more of the people who agree with the Christian identity fighting for that identity more than anything else.
Yeah. Amen. We need to see a lot more of that. I'm getting still that echo a little bit. I just want to say thank you for coming on. We've gone about an hour, and that's what I was hoping to get. So I'm glad we were able to do it, and really honored that you'd come on. You're the second interview we've done so far, so hopefully we'll be doing more of that. We've got some more people lined up to come on as guests, so I'm looking forward to that. Everybody go check out The Crucible with Andrew Wilson and Pedro. Awesome channel. That's linked in the description. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And Andrew, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
Yeah, there is one more thing. If you need any aid with anything, you make sure you let me know. And if you need to be put in contact with anybody, let me know, and we'll see what we can do to also help you out. The more that we all help each other, the better we're going to be able to push the actual true identity, which is Christianity, forward. And I'll just end it with that. Thank you so much for having me on. It was truly a pleasure.
Same, brother. Thank you. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us. I will see you guys again soon. We'll be doing, we got Michael Cisco agreed to come on, setting up scheduling with Radix Virum. If she's still in the chat, Radix, what's up? I saw you were here earlier. Thanks for joining. And I'm just going to go through comments and say hey to everybody that's here. We got B Moon. Always good to see you, B Moon. The Green Feathers. Mikhail, what's up, Mikhail? Always love to see you here. John World. No Names. Dangerfield Henley. Stoned Canuck Theory. That's a new one. Oh, I'm so glad I saw your name, Xenia. I want to give a happy birthday to our friend DJ Lantern in the chat. Him and Xenia are together, and they're always very supportive of what we do. So happy birthday, DJ. That's tomorrow. So happy early birthday, DJ. Based Homeschool Mom, always great to see you. Based Homeschool Mom, you're actually how I found Andrew here. I first saw Based Homeschool Mom mentioned by Brother Augustine when he was talking about the Orthodox Montanica. And everybody's like, who's Based Homeschool Mom? So I looked up Based Homeschool Mom on YouTube and didn't see a channel. So it was kind of intriguing. And then finally, we saw the Crucible. And then we started to learn, okay, this is who they are. So really great to see you. Thank you for joining. Jethro, Deputy Dave, haven't seen that name in a while. Black Party Vintage, what's up, man? Okay. And John World. I think that's it, guys. So, all right, Andrew, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate all of your support, and I will catch you next time. And until then, God bless everyone.